mysteries of creation are there. Up in the sky. Up in the sky. The moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for knowledge and peace are there.
Welcome to the Archetypal News Network. My name is James Moran. I'm an archetypal astrologer, and I'm here with you today with an astrological warning for the psychedelic renaissance. So in January of 2023, we're just leaving what's called a Jupiter-Neptune period. Jupiter and Neptune are conjunct in the sky. It's lasted for about a year. And this Jupiter-Neptune period combines the archetypes of Jupiter and Neptune is very much associated with psychedelics in the sense that in the Greco-Roman mythology, Neptune was the god of the ocean, and the astrological archetype of Neptune involves a kind of a dissolving out associated with infinite planes such as the sky, the imagination, the dream realm, the infinite ocean, the infinite collective unconscious. And the Neptune archetype has associated with it a sense of kind of dissolving of boundaries that is very much linked with the therapeutic use of psychedelics in the sense how there's a healing quality of disillusion, of dissolving one known boundaries of the ego, and in doing so connecting with infinite planes, the collective unconscious. So Neptune has a natural association with psychedelic-assisted healing, psychedelic-assisted therapy. Jupiter is the archetype of abundance, optimism, uplift. And together they create a sense of kind of spiritual faith, kind of the spiritual connection aspect of it would be associated with Neptune, and the faith, the optimism would be associated with Jupiter. So we are concluding in January of 2023 a period in which those two planets were conjoined in the sky, reflecting as above, so below here in the world, a kind of like an atmosphere of a sense of faith, sense of spiritual abundance, a sense of hope, a sense of optimism associated with spirituality. And particularly it could be observed in the psychedelic assisted healing movement for sure. We are going in about halfway through 2024, we'll go into a Saturn Neptune period that will last through 2026. Now, that is a different energy because Saturn is associated with the limitations and reality checks of life. So when it combines with Neptune, the spiritual orientation, the sense of connection to the infinite planes, the sense of connection to the collective unconscious, the well of inspiration from which archetypal imagery and information and intuition comes to us, the feeling can be that it becomes occluded by the reality checks and the kind of heavy burdens and responsibilities associated with Saturn. So the Saturn-Neptune combination is thought of to be one of the most difficult because of the sort of crisis of faith that comes along with it. The recalibrating we have to do between stark reality and the kind of hopeful spiritual ideal. So that's the word of warning for the psychedelic renaissance, is that we're going from kind of a hopeful period to a really kind of like a reality test. The positive kind of benefit, the positive outlook to this transition is actually that Jupiter Neptune, the period that we're just completing, does actually have its negative side, or it's not so desirable side, which is Neptune, the archetype of the infinite planes, a sense of connection to spirit, to what lies beyond, a kind of a unitive principle that unifies, that is behind and within all things, that unifies all things. Jupiter, that uplifting sense of optimism and abundance. It can actually create unreal kind of fantasies about for instance, we're talking about the field of psychedelic assisted healing, a sort of like a over optimism and a kind of like a bubble of optimism that's not realistic. There can be like a superabundance of different psychedelic medicines that maybe are not all put to the test of if they're really beneficial. There can be like an overabundance of hope and overly positive association with people, situations that don't deserve that. And the positive side of Saturn Neptune is that it's grounding. It favors a more grounded spirituality. It favors spiritual practice that's more grounded and integrated into the practical necessities of reality. It also brings with it a kind of a discernment, a kind of a reality-based discernment, what is really real. So we might see a kind of a sobering up in the psychedelic-assisted healing movement around mid-decade, when there's that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and a real questioning of like, what is really beneficial and what is just fantasy. So those are some kind of qualities to look out for. At the same time, Saturn, Neptune, we want to be realistic. We want to kind of call upon that maturity of the Saturn Neptune combination beforehand and be realistic and know that when we go into it, there will be a crisis of faith. Saturn Neptune is often associated with contamination. We want to be careful. There can be contamination of psychedelic medicines. On the positive side, it is associated with certification. Saturn is associated with certifications because it likes things to be real. It likes things to be tested by kind of like institutional authority. And that can have its positive and negative sides. So we'll probably see a lot of kind of integrating of the Neptunian aspect of this practice, psychedelic-assisted healing, into the law structures, institutional structures. See certification practices gaining traction. Really, ultimately, though, is what it's asking to do is asking us to cultivate our own inner sense of authority in this field of spiritual growth. Because a certification process is good, it can be good. It's also a kind of a circumscribing of the field, which can be positive or negative, because it can, depending on who defines the terms of that certification, the circumscription can leave people on the outside, which maybe are the ones you want, and have people on the inside, which maybe are the ones you don't want. But with all that in mind, what a certification actually does is it just is a sort of an external representation of an inner authority. So what's less important is the external representation. What's more important is the inner authority. So that's what we're going towards, that Saturn-Neptune period, the period of the testing of our own inner authority in this balance between the practical responsibilities of reality and the kind of the spiritual underpinnings and the spiritual faith and kind of unitive principle that underlies it all. So that's my astrological warning for you, and also hopeful astrological message. Again, I'm James Moran, archetypal astrologer. Thank you so much for tuning into the Archetypal News Network. Please like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you so much.